You used to find these guns at pawn shops, back shelves, and garage sales for pocket change. Now they're gone, snapped up by collectors, locked in safes, or priced into the stratosphere. So how did forgotten rifles and pistols, once passed over or laughed at, suddenly become unicorns? In this video, we'll talk about 7 guns that quietly disappeared from the market, some due to politics, others due to production cuts, and a few because nobody realized just how special they were until it was too late. We'll dive into the stories, the quirks, and the features that made each of these guns go from bargain bin rejects to collector bait. Stick around, because one of these might be sitting in your closet right now, and it's probably worth a lot more than you think. Number 1. Heckler Koch SL8. Back in the late 90s, H&K decided that American shooters deserved a slice of G36 DNA, so they stripped away everything Washington might dislike: pistol grip, folding stock, flash hider, 30-round magazines, and released the SL8. Most folks walked right past it to grab yet another AR-15. Nobody felt like paying premium money for a gray thumbhole rifle that only accepted 10-round single-stack magazines, especially when it sat on the rack next to cheaper carbines that took P-mags by the case. Stores discounted brand new SL8s to well under $1,000, and even then, they collected dust. The story changed once imports slowed to a drip. Modders realized the core of the rifle was pure G36. Cold hammer forged 20-inch barrel, short-stroke gas piston, rotary locking bolt, and an action that prints half-inch 5-shot groups with 77-grain match loads if the shooter does his part. Conversions popped up, but turning an SL8 into a pseudo G36 required swapping the single lug bolt head for a double lug, cutting the receiver for a wider magwell, and praying the compliance gods looked away. The few conversions that escaped shops like Tommy built became cult items. Then early 2024 rolled around, and HK USA quietly erased the SL8 from its website. No press release, no "we regret to announce," just gone. Overnight, the same rifles that sat unwanted a decade earlier doubled in price. The few still new in box leapt from $900 clearance specials to $2,000 collectibles. Rumors that a true civilian G36, nicknamed the C36, might arrive someday only added fuel. People who once mocked the SL8 for its ergonomics now fever search gun broker and forums, hoping to catch an owner who hasn't checked prices lately. Number 2. Valmet M76. Mention Finnish firearms and most shooters picture Sako bolts or Tikka hunting rifles. Fewer recall Valmet, Finland's state-run factory that put an engineer's polish on the Kalashnikov pattern. The M76 was Valmet's curtain call for the American market. Produced from 1976 to 1986 in tiny export batches. Picture an AK that spent a semester in Helsinki learning manners, tighter pins, forged trunnions, immaculate rivets, and a trigger crisp enough to shame many match ARs. Valmet offered the rifle in 7.62 by 39, 5.56, and the obscure 222 Remington for countries that banned military calibers. Owners routinely brag about 2-inch groups with surplus ammo, and even better with handloads, territory most stamped AKs never visit. A 3-prong flash suppressor doubles as an emergency barbed wire cutter because Scandinavian practicality never rests. Stocks ranged from polymer to wood to a seriously robust tubular folder. Every variant now sparks bidding wars. Import numbers were microscopic. Some estimates claim fewer than 1,000 examples of certain versions ever crossed U.S. docks. When Cold War surplus from Romania, Bulgaria, and China flooded gun shows in the 90s, the M76's higher price tag pushed it into the background. Shooters grabbed 3 cheap WASRs instead. Valmet production ended, the company merged into Sako, and new Finnish AKs vanished. Fast forward to today. Collectors hunting the Cadillac of AKs face sticker shock. The very few clean ones bring $3,000 to $4,000. Folders even more. Magazines require either deep pockets or careful fitting of Eastern Bloc steel. Spare parts come from donor rifles, so buying one for spares usually means sacrificing another. Owners joke that the Valmet isn't just reliable, it's so well built it doesn't need part support, but everybody still hoards springs. Number 3. Intratec Tech 9. Few firearms captured the American media's imagination like the polymer-framed Tech 9. On paper, it's a blowback 9mm pistol that feeds from stick magazines and, if you're lucky, runs a full mag without stovepiping. In reality, it became a cultural prop. Miami Vice henchmen, rap album covers, and grainy news footage from the worst days of the 90% crime wave. Designer George Kellgren, long before founding Keltec, shipped open-bolt KG-9s that could be converted to full auto with a file. ATF responded. The gun evolved into the closed-bolt KG-99 and finally, the TEC-9. Intratec sold more than 250,000 at prices average folks could swing on a weekend whim. Reliability was spotty. Accuracy lived somewhere between 4 and 6 MOA, and yet the look sold rifles. The 1994 federal assault weapon ban named the TEC-9 specifically, freezing supply and forever welding the pistol to gun control debates. Intratec's follow-up AB-10 shaved off the threaded muzzle and shipped with a 10-round mag, but the company folded in 2001. Since then, collectors have discovered that finding an unmolested TEC-9 with the correct magazines and sights is tougher each year. Today, a pre-ban mint condition starts around $1,200, and rarities like the Mini or stainless TEC-9S push higher. Drum magazines fetch car payment money. Spare extractors and buffer assemblies linger only in junk drawers of retired gunsmiths. Many remaining pistols were abused in the 90s, so buyers sift through cracked polymer frames and homebrew barrel ports to snag one worthy of a safe. Number 4. Bushmaster Arm Pistol. Take a dash of AR-15 parts, a helping of Kalashnikov piston engineering, cram everything into a sci-fi chassis barely bigger than a football, and you have the Bushmaster Arm Pistol. Mac Gwynn's original concept for a compact Air Force survival gun morphed into civilian production by the late 70s. Chambered in .223 Remington, the pistol accepts standard Stanag magazines, yet ejects spent brass straight up, deflecting it to either side as the shooter cants the grip. Functionally, it sits in no man's land. Firing from the shoulder puts the reciprocating charging handle inches from your cheek, but shooting it one-handed is an exercise in wrist endurance. Accuracy hovers around 4 MOA at 25 yards, satisfactory for a last-ditch weapon, but hardly graceful. Still, the action is clever. Long stroke piston, rotating bolt, and a cam path machined into the aluminum upper, all assembled with Vietnam-era field toughness in mind. Only about 2,100 were produced before interest fizzled. A handful of transferable select fire versions surfaced before the 1986 registry closed. Those rarely leave collections and command 5-figure sums. Semi-auto pistols trade in the $2 to $3 grand bracket. Provided the original flash hider, sling loops, and proprietary safety lever remain intact. Aftermarket parts do not exist. Need a firing pin or extractor. You machine one or buy a donor gun. Mounting optics requires custom work. Most owners leave the weird little notched iron sights as is. Because of the unusual ejection path, suppressors are more fantasy than reality unless you relish a face full of gas. Number 5. Norinco Tokarev Model 2 1-3. During the surplus boom of the 80s, a crate of Chinese Model 2 1-3 pistols cost less than a decent weekend road trip. Importers loved them because Norinco churned out thousands, each a rugged single-action clone of the Soviet TT-33, but chambered for ubiquitous 9mm instead of bottleneck 7.62 by 25. American shooters loved them because they fired cheap ammo and fit glove compartments without complaint. Then politics intervened. The 1994 executive order blocking most Chinese firearms ended the flow overnight. Dealers sold remaining stock, and the Model 2 1-3 quietly vanished into sock drawers, tackle boxes, and the holsters of ranchers who needed a pistol that tolerated rain, dust, and neglect. 2 decades later, collectors noticed that finding one without pitting or garage tool gunsmithing had become surprisingly difficult. The pistol itself is delightfully straightforward. Short recoil, tilting barrel action, 7-round single-stack magazine, Browning-style locking lugs, and a frame-mounted thumb safety added solely for export. Accuracy runs around 3 to 4 MOA at 25 yards, plenty for the coyotes and milk jugs it usually faced. The thin slide and 4.6-inch barrel give it a flatter profile than many modern compacts, though the 800-gram steel frame keeps recoil mild. Magazines are the Achilles heel. Original single stacks rarely surface, and double stack variants require matching magwell spacers. Owners modify surplus star or CZ mags, but success is hit or miss. Spare barrels and small parts mostly ride in the pockets of Tokarev enthusiasts who haunt forum classifieds. Prices tell the tale. A pistol that cost a couple of bills in 1993 now moves for $600 or more when clean, higher if it still has the factory cardboard box and oil paper wrap. That trajectory shows no sign of slowing, because no fresh supply will appear unless trade policy changes dramatically. Each year, another casually used Model 213 rusts beyond rescue, making the survivors that much more desirable. Number 6. Savage Model 99. At the turn of the 20th century, lever rifles ruled North American hunting fields, yet they all shared a weakness: tubular magazines that forced round-nosed bullets. Arthur Savage's hammerless Model 99 fixed that with a rotary magazine that staged cartridges nose to rim, suddenly making pointed Spitzer bullets safe in a lever gun. That change boosted velocity and flattened trajectories, giving hunters reach they had only dreamed about. Savage introduced the rotary counter window on the left side of the receiver, a tiny brass dial showing rounds remaining. Another clever addition was the cocking indicator pin, easily checked in the dark. Chamberings came thick and fast, from 303 Savage to the high-velocity 250-3000 and later 308 Winchester. Over 1 million rifles left factories in Utica, Chicopee Falls, and Westfield between 1899 and 1997. Accuracy was, and still is, remarkably good for a lever design. Many rifles group hunting loads into 2 inches at 100 yards. Balance feels lively thanks to the thin receiver, and the absence of an external hammer removes snag hazards when cycling quickly from the shoulder. Variants range from featherweight carbines to engraved presentation grades, wearing Monte Carlo stocks and gold triggers. So why did the 99 fade? Bolt guns and semi-autos became cheaper to build, optics eclipsed open sights, and marketing budgets shifted to modern designs. When production ended, hunters moved on, leaving a century's worth of 99s in closets. Recently, nostalgia and appreciation for mechanical ingenuity brought them back into focus. Collectors chase pre-war rifled barrels, takedown models, or odd calibers like .284 Winchester. Prices for well-kept examples have climbed beyond $1,000, with deluxe grades fetching far more. Number 7. Remington Nylon 66. When Remington unveiled a rimfire rifle made almost entirely of DuPont's Zytel nylon in 1959, skeptics predicted warped stocks and shattered receivers. 3 decades and more than 1 million units later, the Nylon 66 proved them wrong. It weighed 4 pounds loaded, needed no oil, shrugged off rust, and functioned in blizzards that froze metal-on-metal actions solid. The rifle feeds 14 .22 LR rounds from a tubular magazine nestled inside the buttstock. You pull the brass follower, drop bullets nose down, replace the tube, yank the right side charging handle, and start plinking. Leaf sights handle close work, and the thin sheet steel receiver shroud carries a groove for rimfire scope rings. Though many shooters leave glass off to preserve the rifle's lively handling, accuracy surprises newcomers. Groups hover near 1.5 inches at 50 yards with high-velocity ammo. That precision, combined with the self-lubricating polymer receiver rails, let trappers and backcountry pilots rely on the Nylon 66 when cleaning kits stayed home. Reports of hunters felling caribou or even moose with a well-placed .22 from a nylon circulate in northern folklore. Remington offered colors that sound like vintage car paint: Mohawk brown, Apache black with chrome barrel, Seneca green that's nearly impossible to distinguish from brown in dim light. Scarcer runs include the Black Diamond and the Gallery Special chambered for .22 short only. Production stopped in 1989, and while plenty entered circulation, a surprising number were shot to pieces by kids who never imagined they'd become collectibles. Spare parts are almost non-existent. The rifles almost never crack stocks, but tiny internal buffers and extractors wear over decades, and replacements require pillaging donor guns. Clean Seneca greens can break the $1,000 barrier, and even the relatively more common Mohawk Browns in honest condition sell quickly at shows. And that's our list of 7 forgotten guns that used to be cheap, common, and ignored, but are now rare, expensive, and highly sought after. Do you own one of these? Still kicking yourself for letting one go? Drop your story in the comments. Hit like, share this video with your range crew, subscribe for more content like this, and click that bell icon so you don't miss the next one.